Welcome to the All New Marvel Roundup, the Southgate Media Group weekly guide to the Marvel Comics of the week. As always, I am Phil&rsquo, and with me is...
Charlie&rsquo.
Alright, Charlie&rsquo, what did you read this week?
Oh, let's see here. Let's start on Battle World. Hey kids, remember Battle World? Yeah, way back when there was a Secret Wars. Yes. Well, in Ultimate End, it is still going on, but about to come to an end. And pretty great, pretty awesome, pretty dreamlike is what I'll say. Okay, so remember in Old Man Logan, the last book of Old Man Logan goes and meets with Emma Frost, and she says, "You must lead us," yada yada yada, blah 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 blah, and they go and create the army of heroes, and then even as they're talking, it all fades out of existence, and good old Logan wakes up in beautiful downtown Manhattan. Well, in this one, something similar, but sort of from a different perspective happens. We start off with Miles Morales swinging in, saying, "Stop!" And then it goes, please stop. And everyone's like, what the heck? And then even the Punisher's like, what's going on here? And he stops. And plotline, Jean Grey reads his mind. Rachel Summers reads his mind. Everyone reads because those Jean Greys, they just don't have any respect for personal domain. It says everything he's saying is true. Emma Frost basically does a mind meld with everyone, letting everyone know exactly what Miles Morales knows about the 616, about the 1610, about how Doom is a big old yerk, as they say in Sweden. And some people are like, hey, he's lying, it's a trick, Doom is testing our faith, yada, 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 yada. Then they all sort of realize, no, we got to do this, we got to fight the bad guys, and then the Thors arrive, and then Cyclops basically says, it's okay, we got this, magic, and then zap, they're gone. And then Punisher pulls out a big old laser bazooka and just starts shooting Thors. And, of course, Thors electrocute him. And, Punisher says, now I know this was always the end, always. Meanwhile, all of our heroes are in a spot, and they're discussing what they have to do. And the remainder of the book is Peter calling Aunt May. And this is 1610 Aunt May of 1610 Peter, except, it's confusing exactly how it breaks down. But Peter calling Aunt May, Miles calling his dad, Tony calling Pepper, and of course, they all get answering machines. Then they start their battle, and then as they're talking, everything starts to fade. And Miles' last line is, man, I hope we were right. And then a page of blankness, although you can just barely see that there was some art there, even some dialogue, but we will never get to know what it was. Probably an ad for fruit pies, if we really want to be honest. But then Miles wakes up in the all-new, all-different Marvel Universe, and there's his friends. And he says, look at him, Genki, says the girlfriend, or the friend who is a girl. He's still asleep. Dude, it's like news, says Genki. We're heading into the city. We made plans, says his African-American friend. I don't read Miles Morales, so I don't know who all these characters' names is except for Genki, because he gets his name, or Gank, or however they pronounced him, gets his name shouted out by the other two. And he said, and Miles says, you guys go ahead. I'll meet you later. Oh, really, says the female. And says, hell, I'll beat you, says Miles. And says, oh, Mr. Fancy, says his Asian friend. Because you know that this is the modern world because it's 3 different ethnicities and all are best friends. And one's even a girl. Miles puts on his costume and says, Mr. Fancy, damn right. And he swings over what looks a lot like the 616 Marvel Universe, but we all know now is the all-new, all-different Marvel Universe, and that Triskelion we see in the background is actually Wakandan, the Wakandan embassy. We see him swinging over. We see the cover of Spider-Man coming February 2016. with Parker Industries in the background and all this stuff. So big thumbs up. It was really a great, powerful, moving book. I really loved it. I really loved the conflict between the characters as they're sort of trying to come to grips with the fact that everything that they thought was real was not in fact real. And there's just these great multi-page panels of just, character face, and their thoughts, their reactions, their thinking. It's nice, the last panel of each of these lines, it's the Punisher sort of being shocked, being scared, being sad, being depressed, and then acceptance. And, we all know what we're going to do. Old man Logan puts his claws to Grey Hulk's neck. It's all good. It's all really a great book. And big thumbs up, ultimate end. And then the next book I'm going to read, because it's next on the pile, is Ms. Marvel #2. Okay. Like so many books we've seen so far, man, Grove Street. They keep on referencing Grove Street in this. And I think it's because the people who write this book actually don't live in New Jersey, and the only street they know in in Jersey City is Grove, because that's where the Path Station is. I'm just guessing it because they make three references to Grove Street in this, and then we had the reference to Grove Street in the last one. Anyway, so a little bit of plot line here is when last we left our intrepid hero, she was certain that Hope Yards, HY. I wonder what that could mean. Hope Yards Development Office, HYD. Anyway, we'll get back to that in a minute. So she breaks into the Hope Yards Development Office, and she's looking for clues, and she finds a little fridge filled with little vials of purple stuff. Purple. And I know what you're thinking, and I thought the same thing. Wasn't quite what we thought it was going to be. Still good. Okay, so little vials of purple stuff. Gets chased by drones, runs away, gives the vial to Bruno so that he can do some experiments on it, figure out what the heck it is. Meanwhile, we find out that Nakia, who is Kamala's best friend, it basically says, if Ms. Marvel has turned on Jersey City, then we're going to turn on her, yada, yada, yada. Very depressing. So Ms. Marvel goes to figure out what's going on. She runs home, and then her mom meets her. And they get into this huge argument about being Ms. Marvel and whether or not it's good. And we get what is, to me, and I hope it becomes this, the great power, great responsibility line for Ms. Marvel, from Ms. Marvel's mom to Ms. Marvel, which is, you can't choose to be a hero. You can only choose to do what a hero would do. And that's really great, and that's really powerful, and that's beautiful. And then Kamala's brother is like, you were supposed to meet me yesterday. I had something important for you to do. And I remember her brother is very, very religious. And so, as is Islamic custom, he cannot meet the girl he wants to get with unless he has a female family member to be there and chaperone them. And he needs his sister to come with him so that he can meet this girl that he really likes. And she's like, she's very religious too, clearly. She's got the very nice, actually I think it is technically called the burqa, although it doesn't have the face veil, because I think the one with the face veil is actually called something else. So she's got her head covered, her body covered, and nothing on her face. And she's currently being harassed by some security guards for the Hope Yards. And then as she's walking around, she realizes that all these people have glowing purple eyes. Again, not what we thought it was going to be. Although, man, how annoying was it that they lead us in this direction, and then no, not quite that. So she makes Kamala's brother's girlfriend makes the phrase "the spice is life." And she says, Kamala says, "Did you just make a Dune reference?" She says, "Maybe." She says, "Please marry my brother." And her brother's like, "Whoa, let's not get ahead of ourselves." And Josh, who is the big jock of the school, says, "Hey, Kamala, nice day, huh? Josh, what's happened here? What's wrong with everybody?" And he says, "Nothing. We're all great. When my parents told me we were moving to Hope Yards and they have all their word bubbles coated black with yellow writing to show we're really mind controlled, as if the purple eyes weren't enough. Fresh ideas, fresh locales, steps from boutique shopping and high-end restaurants. Who needs Manhattan when you've got Hope Yards right here in JC? And we see that basically her friend who she was saving last week, he's got all of his stuff packed up and he's moving. And he's saying he's so happy to be moving because, it's better for Jersey City. Meanwhile, Bruno has analyzed the stuff, and rather than being little bits of purple man, it's actually nanites. They're purple nanites, though, so maybe, who knows, maybe there'll be some Purple Man reference later, but they're not Purple Man. And meanwhile, he gets 3 guys in suits coming in as he's trying to get away, and he tells Kamala, you really need to talk to my girlfriend. She has the key to my heart. Seriously, you need to talk to her. And Kamala's like, what do you mean, Bruno? Are you seriously trying to stomp all over my heart and make me feel terrible about my life choices? Bruno? Because, of course, he's gone. So Kamala runs to Hope Yards, faces off in a high-speed chase on top of moving vans with a bad guy with some sort of laser cannon. Because, it is the Marvel Universe. Meanwhile, they arrive at a warehouse. She gets shot, which makes her incapacitated. And whom do you suppose is the mastermind behind Hope Yards?
Well, he said it's not the Purple Man, so...
Oh, he is wearing a purple suit.
Purple suit. I don't know, who?
Dr. Faustus, back, and actually looking rather trim. He's actually looks like he's been taking care of himself since he got away from Captain America. And he's back with Hydra, which, of course, the Hope Yards Redevelopment and Relocation Association stands for Hydra because branding. Oh. And then we find out that even Bruno has been taken over by the Purple Menace. And things just got real. Next issue says, want to know what happens next? Don't miss Ms. Marvel #3. And they've got Ms. Marvel with a big sign behind her with her face and the words traitor written across it in classic Days of Futures Past fashion. Big thumbs up. Once again, just a fantastic book from Ms. Marvel. And you know what? I'm going to say this now. Ms. Marvel is no longer holding the line at $2.99. It's now a $3.99 book. I'm not going to complain about it being a $3.99 book because it's just so dang good, but it was nice having a $3.99 book exists. So that's my only statement on that. Okay. What's your next book there, Phil?
All right. I'll go with this because it came out last week, but I'll be so bold as to say this is my pick of this week, Scarlet Witch #1.
Pick of the week? Cool.
Yeah. Can I do that even though it came out last week?
Well, no, but would it have been the pick of last week if you had gotten it then? That's the question.
I don't know. I can't remember what my pick of the week last week was. But it opens up. We see a splash page of Captain America, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and Hawkeye on stage, like their famous first appearance from Avengers 16. Then it goes to a quote from Exodus, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." And I guess we see that first page was the Scarlet Witch dreaming because she wakes up in her apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. So she goes downstairs to get some coffee. She's talking to someone because someone asked her if she had a bad dream. She says, no, there are no such thing as bad dreams. There's just messages from our subconscious. And she's telling this person, you know how much I love dry sarcasm first thing in the morning. And they reveal that she's talking to the ghost of Agatha Harkness.
Cool. Now here's the question. Is it old Agatha or hot Agatha?
It looks like old Agatha, but kind of like maybe with a more modern hairstyle. But yeah, it looks like old Agatha.
Okay.
It's hard to tell, but and Wanda's telling her, there's something wrong out there in the city tonight. Something isn't right. And Agatha, the ghost of Agatha, says, it's New York. There are always things that aren't right. And she goes, you mean magic? And Wanda says, well, yes, but more specifically, witchcraft. So I wonder if this has like a tie-in with Doctor Strange because she's feeling that magic's, there's something wrong with magic right now.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that going around in the universe right now, in the Marvel Universe. So I think it is going to tie together. More to the point, Doctor Strange is coming out soon. they're introducing magic into the MCU, and Agatha Harkness will be, because I'm forcing it with the power of my will, in Agent Carter. So sure.
So they're talking about all the bad stuff that's going on, and I guess the Scarlet Witch can read people's auras now and see where good and bad resides. And Wanda says the coffee's delicious, wish you could try it. And Agatha says yes, being dead has its drawbacks. Then they show Wanda. I guess she gets dressed. They show her out in New York. She's headed for the police station, but she's thinking to herself about her powers, about how she was born with the power to break the laws of physics and scientific absolutes. And even sometimes she's been mentally unstable. She's like, I often heard the spells I cast referred to as chaos magic, but in actual fact, they're far from chaotic. Their power and intensity are linked to the energy of the earth and womankind. Revered by ancient
very feminist of her.
Yes, revered by ancient pagan faiths and feared by men. Its name is witchcraft. So she goes to the
witchcraft.
But she goes to the police station and asks the officer, on desk duty. She's looking for Detective Erickson, who's the lead, I guess, investigator on. She says a restaurant murder last night, and the cop says, "Yeah, he's lead. You got a name, sweetheart?" And she goes, "Yes, Buttercup, I do. Wanda Maximoff. Although you might know me better by another name." So then they show her at the Bates Bistro and Bar. It's a crime scene. There was a murder there. The detective's telling her one of the bus boys went crazy, and he was peeling radishes 1 minute, and then he's peeling the faces off a couple diners the next. He killed 2, and
crazy.
Yeah. And Wanda says this isn't the first crime of this kind, and he goes, "What? You look in your crystal ball?" And she's like, "Yes, while a gypsy violinist played in the background." She goes, "Or maybe I simply just read the newspaper." And he's saying, yeah, two other people have been attacked, and she says both rich people, and he says, yeah. He says one was a banker who was dropping his car off, and the valet went nuts on him, and the other was a woman in her apartment, and her maid went crazy on her. And he says, what, this is some kind of magical thing? And she says, yeah, it's all quite obvious if you look for the signs. And she said, every cat in Lower Manhattan is mysteriously dying, strays and pets. And he says, yeah. He says, that's 2, cats and witches? And she says, yes and no, like a virus of sorts. And then she gives him a quick history lesson. From the 1730s in Paris, there was a cat massacre, and she said some historians thought of this as a revolution, but really it was a sacrifice. A tegrim, the killing of cats in order to control hell and summon a sonolin. It's the magical embodiment of envy, hate, and the need to punish. And he's saying one of these has been conjured in Lower Manhattan. She says, yeah. What'd she say? Yeah, it's a part of the city where, unfortunately, nowadays, the less fortunate are being driven out by those wealthier and more fortunate. So at least the same hateful hex could take root. And she says the killers are all innocent as much as the people they're killing. And the Sonolin's hate energy spreads from one to the next. And then he goes, you know who the next killer is going to be? And she says, yes. She says, the next killer is going to be you, detective. And he's like, me? And he says, I don't feel hatred or envy. And she goes, no, you were born poor and you worked your way up from the bottom. And although you never admitted it, you don't think adversely on those you see as born with a silver spoon. And he's like, how do you know all this? He's like, we just met. And she goes, did you forget I'm the Scarlet Witch? And she starts casting a spell. But he goes, what are you doing? She goes, saving your life, but this is going to hurt. And she pulls the demon out of him. Because as she says, exorcisms always hurt. And so she's fighting it. As she says, she uses she says the spell that summoned it is an ancient Scottish spell. So she has to use a Celtic spell to banish it. And then as she's doing it, she says something's wrong. And she was distracted by something she sensed. but she's able to get rid of the demon, and then later on she's back in her apartment talking to Agatha again. And I guess she's told Agatha that witchcraft is sick and ailing. And Agatha's like, I used to love being all mysterious and witchy, speaking in vague terms and riddles. I enjoyed how much it irritated Reed Richards.
Reed. But hey, here's what we'll say for Reed. When Reed knew that he had scientific enemies, he got a witch to watch his kid.
No,
because Reed actually does think ahead a bit.
But then she says when the moment she connected with the demon, she sensed the force at work, and this is just the first strike in an ongoing attack. She's like, witchcraft is being tampered with, weakened. And Agatha's like, I expected I would have back when I was alive before you killed me. She says, I now understand the symbolism of the dream I had this morning, too. She goes, how the Avengers should stay in my past as much as events allow them to. But basically, she's just saying she's going to find out, who's attacking magic. And she goes, whoever did this, they'll know what it's like to face the Scarlet Witch. So, next issue, Mother Gods and Minotaurs. Like I said, big thumbs up for me. This is my pick of the week. It was so good, in fact, I don't need another new book, but I'm like, oh man, I think I'm going to have to drop something so I can start collecting this.
There you go. I think does the next book come out next week? Or is it January? I don't know.
It might. Well, you never know with, them. If it's 2 weeks, yeah, because it came out last week, so.
Yeah. Because I only got 4 books next week, so I'm thinking, So, and interesting because, of course, that's the 3rd book dealing with magic is dying. Doctor Strange, this, and of course Hercules has a similar plotline going. Makes you wonder if they're all going to be connected, or if there's just 3 fronts on the war against magic.
Oh, that'd be cool if they had a crossover.
Oh, that would be awesome. Well, you did say the next issue was it Mother Goddesses and Minotaurs?
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. And speaking of magic, Illuminati #2. I'm liking the book. I really am. I still wonder a bit where it's going. We have one more group of people who've come back from the dead, which we'll get to in a minute. But a good book. Not my pick of the week yet. We'll get to my pick of the week in a bit. It was actually a book we both read. So we open up with a little bit of flashback again with the Hood making his recruitments of Thunderball, Black Ant, and Enchantress and the Mad Thinker. Then we cut to the current situation in the Hood's hideout. Thunderball and Titania are discussing things. They're basically, Titania asks Thunderball, "You think he's legit?" And he says, "The Hood, I'll trust him as far as I can throw him. And he's lucky I can throw him a long way." Which is, advantage of being super strong. They basically point out that, there's no windows, all the doors lead back to the main chamber. It's all freaking magic. They're in a magic house. They know this. But they go to meet with the Mad Thinker, who is, of course, standing around in his underwear. And they're like, "Could you please cover it up?" And Titania's like, "Please, I've seen a lot worse in my day." Remembering she is ostensibly married to the Absorbing Man. Mad Thinker's being all crazy today, saying about how clothes are a man-made invention and his genius needs to breathe. And it seems like he's talking to himself and refers to his little friend, to which Titania basically says, "Is he talking to who I think he is?" But no, he's talking to the Black Ant, who is basically being rebuilt by the Mad Thinker. Said, "We heard you were dead." No, not so much. Meanwhile, the Enchantress comes through, drinking champagne, and seeming very Patsy and Adina here, for those, except not quite so sloshed. And she wandered, and they all suit up in the new stealth suits the Mad Thinker made for them. And they go into the Hood's office to discuss the big plan. They're going to break into Asgardia, steal a bunch of weapons, sell them on the black market, have millions of dollars, and then tell all the kids how cool they were. And they do this nice little thing of the aging Hood talking to some kids in red hoods, saying, "Taught Dr. Doom everything he knew. That green hood idea, that was all." And then they basically point out how stupid this plan is. And how are we even going to get to Asgardia? And they say, "What about you, Enchantress?" And she says, "Me." And she says, "I want no part of this team. I'm only here because I need to get into Asgardia without angering Odin. Once I show you to the armory, I'm gone." And basically, Madthinker says, "My goals are the same. I'm not interested in being part of a team of my inferiors. You are but a resource to access the Asgard science hood. Then I can crack it open and see how it works and make it my own so that I can..." The Hood says, "Hold on, everyone. Slow your roll, okay? There have been whispers that a hotshot scientist named Dr. Carver has been developing an artificial Bifrost bridge. We're going to ask him if we can take it for a little test drive." So they all agree. They go to Club Fenris, which is, one of your classic supervillain clubs throughout Manhattan. Why don't the superheroes have their own bar? Well, I guess the magic users have the bar with no doors, but, they need at least a diner where all the heroes can hang out, Mm-hmm. Anyway, there they meet Adriana and Andreas von Strucker. Says, "Thought you two had gone to the great big hell in the sky." And Andreas says, "Father took care of that. I see you brought friends." And says, "We have only one rule here. That rule is broken, you pay." And so then Thunderball starts talking to folks, seeing if he can recruit them into the thing. Tatiana runs into Paste Pot Pete, who is like, "Hey, I go by the Trapster now." It's like, "Yeah, you'll always be Paste Pot to me." And Paste Pot says, "Look, I've heard things about your old man. Meet me outside in a minute. We got to talk." Meanwhile, over in the mad scientist wing, because clearly these are all mad scientists sitting over here, they run into Dr. Carver, who meets the Hood and Enchantress, and then we cut back to Titania, who meets Paste Pot Pete outside, and of course gets a face full of paste for her trouble. And she's all covered in goop and can't move. And he's like, I need money, and give me everything you got, and if not, I'll just turn you in. I'm sure there's a bounty on you. And then he takes out his repulsor gun. Said, "It's still a bit experimental, but I imagine it'll be just like a blast from Iron Man right between the eyes." And she says, "You need money, but you were able to buy boosted Stark Tech?" He says, "Worth it." She goes, "Grr," and you hear the cracking of his paste. He shoots her, and she's still there. He says, "Pete, you better run. Bad word me." And then she breaks out, knocks him out, and she goes back to catch her group. Meanwhile, they find out that Carver realizes that he's not feeling well. And the Hood explains that, "No, you haven't been poisoned, but the black ants inside you slowly growing. And if you don't do what we say, he's going to he's basically going to grow out of you." And he says, "Okay, fine. The Rainbow Bridge is in the top lab of the Roxxon building up north. My passcode is Ragnarok." He says, "Thank you. Now, was that so hard, Black Ant? Please evacuate our friend here." Black Ant? "Ah, my God, get him out! Get him out! Black Ant, get out now!" Splorch. He says, "I always wanted to try that." As they all wipe blood off themselves. "Black Ant, you maniac, that was completely unnecessary." And Treasures, "I hate when I get blood in my hair." Meanwhile, Titania runs in, "Hood, we need to roll out. This place is... What the heck happened to you? The Black Ant broke the one club rule." "Yes, he did, Hood," says Andreas Strucker. "No killing, and you know the punishment. $10 million to anyone who kills the Hood and his crew." Now, granted, these all look like pretty B-list supervillains, but they are, But so too, for the most part, is the Hood's crew. Although I have to say the Hood's crew is actually mainly Thor villains and Fantastic Four villains, so maybe not quite this low class as the people the Destructors are sending in. Anyway, next week, big fight. We'll see what happens next. Thumbs up again for the Illuminati. I'm liking where it's going. I wish there was a bit more characterization going on, but I think we are getting some, and I think we'll get more as it goes on. So I'm sticking with the book for right now. Cool. Which brings me to my next book.
Hey. I still have another book.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I thought you did too. That's right. You only did Scarlet Witch, and then I got excited.
That's how good these books are, people.
Books are exciting. Okay, what's your next book, my friend?
All right. All New X-Men #2. It starts
in really good time.
Well, what's that?
I thought we were making really good time.
Yeah, but this one opens up where the last one left off. It's the it's the young X-Men. They're facing. I didn't think they mentioned the name of the gang last issue, but here they call them the Ghosts of Cyclops. And so they tell one of their members, Thirst, to get them out of there. So the guy opens his mouth and just shoots out water. And Iceman's like, water? He's like, my name starts with the word ice, man. What do you think would happen? And they're like, it's a diversion. So as most of the gang runs off, Angel and All New Wolverine go after them. And Cyclops basically attacks. One of them doesn't get away because Cyclops attacks the guy and starts beating him. And Beast is like, stop. And Cyclops is like, why? He's like, because the cops are here. So the cops take the one gang member and Cyclops into custody. And so the X-Men are like, oh, while they're waiting to get Cyclops out of prison, they're going to clean up and get their RV out. It's like crashed into the building, so they need to get it out. So, of course, Beast and Iceman tell Iddy and Evan, they say, oh, yeah, get this out. We're gonna go get it. We're gonna go feed the Bamf some pizza. So then they go to the Chicago Police Department where Cyclops is locked up in a cell with the one ghost, and he's saying, he's like, "What's up with you anyway?" He's like, "Are you Cyclops' kid or his baby face clone or something?" And he's saying, Cyclops had the right idea. Mutants are being, been beaten up and screwed over long enough. And he's like, this Cyclops mask. And Scott interrupts and says, makes you look like a self-righteous, mass-murdering psychopath. He's like, let me tell you about your big bad hero. He's like, he was a bleeping supervillain. And the guy's like, no, it's not like that. And he's like, and the guys, they're arguing. And the guy's like, who are you to judge? He's like, what? Big famous Cyclops daddy didn't hug you enough? And Scott's like, Cyclops wasn't my dad, you idiot. He's like, Cyclops is me. And then they go to the pizza parlor where the Beast and Iceman are talking, and then the Bamf gets away from them and just starts bamfing all over the place and eating everyone's pizza.
Oh, Bamfs.
Yeah, they named this one. I'm trying to remember what they named this one. They named it Pickles. Pickles the Bam. But then I guess in a nearby parking garage, they show the rest of the ghosts. They're trying to figure out what to do. I guess they're trying to figure out if they want to break their guy. Figuring out about trying to break their guy out of prison. So Wolverine's like, that's our cue, and Angel's like, wait, he's like, Scott tried to take on all these guys by himself, and look what happened. And she goes, no offense to Scott, but I'm Wolverine. She pops her claws, takes out, they got in our SUV and try to get away. She takes out their wheels, so they go crashing into a pillar, and then they come out. And one of the guys...
Wait, are X-23 and Old Man Logan both on the same team?
No, it's just X-23.
Okay, Old Man Logan's on the other
Extraordinary X-Men. Yeah, she's hanging with the kids. But
so the Avengers.
No, I know. So the ghosts get out, and one of the guys looks like he has some kind of like green flame power, and he shoots it at X-23, sets her on fire because she's like, "Does that happen when you get nervous?" He's like, "You tell me," and sets her on fire. And she goes, "Hard to say. You still look pretty nervous." And she starts coming at them, and until Angel grabs her and flies her into a nearby fountain to put out the fire. And he's like, what? That's your mad face. And she's like, yeah. He's like, what? You're on fire. He's like, you smell like meat right now. And she's like, yeah. She goes, flaming Wolverine is even scarier than normal Wolverine. She's like, I had that fight won. I didn't need help.
Wolverines are never more dangerous than when they are dead.
So the ghosts get away. I guess I don't know if they had another card. They stole one, so they get away. And then they show that Iddy and Evan get the the RV. They actually got it towed away, so they're like, Beast didn't tell us how to get it out, so they go to the pizza joint and they're watching Pickles just eat everyone's pizza and chug all their soda. Then back at the jail, Scott's still talking to the ghost, and he's like, he tells the ghost about how him and his teammates were pulled to the future, to try to stop this, and he's like, then he starts talking about his older self. There's no convincing that guy of anything. He's like, he was a real closed-minded piece of work, like a control freak. He's like, nobody understood his plans but him. Nobody could fix the world but him. He had it all figured out, and he burned Xavier's dream to the ground to prove it. And he's like, so instead of saving the future, now he's like, I just got to watch my older self ruin it. He was like, his obsession grew and grew while things just kept getting worse. Then the Terrigen clouds happened, and Cyclops just completely lost his mind. He's like, so here I am trapped in this broken, sad world, knowing full well I'm the one who broke it. And he says, what can I do? What can I do to change any of it? Nothing. He says, can I change my future? What future? My future already happened here. He's like, Cyclops already grew up and went crazy. He already broke everything we ever tried to build. This world hates mutants more than ever because of Cyclops, because of me. And he says, so every time I use my powers, people see me, so I don't use them. When my friends look at me, they say him, so I stay away. I'm doing everything I can to be somebody else. He's like, and no matter what I do, he's like, he's what I get to be when I grow up. Even if I can dodge the psycho bullet and change my destiny, I'm still stuck with that creep's legacy. And he's like, because unlike you and your dumbass friends, I can't take my Cyclops mask off. Which is when the ghosts of Cyclops break through the jail wall, and the one says, Cyclops might be dead and gone, but his ghosts linger on. To be continued.
Now that's an interesting bit about continuity here. So they have Cyclops kind of going nuts after the Terrigen bomb, but didn't the Terrigen bomb come before AVX? Or am I completely
I don't know
the order that things happened?
Are they trying to?
Because it seems like they're suggesting that AVX happened and then the Terrigen bomb, which of course is part of the Well, no, I guess the Terrigen bomb. Well, because the Terrigen bomb was during. It's hard to figure out exactly when it. Maybe the Terrigen bomb did happen after AVX, because the Terrigen bomb happened after, as part of the whole Thanos invading the Earth, when the Avengers were off battling.
Yeah,
the Builders.
It's hard. Yeah, there was like 2 or 3 big events going on around the same time. It's hard to nail down when stuff happened.
Yeah,
but I give it a big thumbs up.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. I like the little bit of pathos there of poor old young Scott. And he didn't even get the girl. Mm-hmm. No shipping young Jean and old man Logan, man. We're sick of that nonsense. We really are. I can see what you're doing, Marvel. Stop it. Okay. Now on to the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, where Dr. Doom has traveled to the future, although it's actually the present, except for him it's the future. And as he says, do not question Doom's perspective. So he's traveled to the future because this is just after he was defeated by Tony Stark and Squirrel Girl. And so he has decided to travel to the future to gain advanced technology. Now, of course, why he went about, I don't know, 5-10 years into the future to get the advanced technology, I'm not quite sure. But Nancy Whitehead, as luck would have it, is there. But so is Jubilation Lee. And so when Jubilation Lee goes to confront Dr. Doom, Nancy runs up and says, no, it's just cosplay. And Jubilation Lee goes, oh, wow, great cosplay, and does a little selfie with her. Meanwhile, they go on, and Doom tells her how he remembers his battle with Squirrel Girl, in which he says, I, Doom, am completely unaffected by these wretched rodents, and now I abandon my hover ship and my world domination plans, and take my leave of you all, just as I was intending to do before these squirrels appeared. Then the Punisher shows up, but then again, cosplay, and Punisher's like, oh, that's cool, man. You have a good day. Wackiness ensues. Meanwhile, let's see here. There's a little bit with Nancy, and she's got an angel Squirrel Girl and a devil Squirrel Girl on her shoulder. And Angel Squirrel Girl says, ask him what he wants. Maybe you can help him. And Devil Squirrel goes, ask him what he wants. Maybe you can help him take over the world, that is. Ha ha! Evil Devil Squirrel Girl rules. Basically, Nancy Whitehead convinces him that, since Doom gets better every day, if Squirrel Girl attacks an earlier version of Doom, that Doom must by definition be weaker than he currently is. And she was saying how before Squirrel Girl traveled back in time, she decided to, she was saying about how much she wanted to beat up on baby Dr. Doom. So they all go back in time to Squirrel Girl's first meeting of the Future Pals back in the 60s. And Squirrel Girl points out that there was this other ad in the paper, and her friend she met in the diner. This is kind of fun because they do a little fourth Wall-E thing here, and where the girl says, well, after I met you, Doreen, I realized I wasn't the only person from the future trapped here, and that made me realize there was another way for all of us to get home. And that Squirrel Girl saying, and to make a little money while we were at it. And Squirrel Girl says, what? I never said that. And the girl says, no, that was me narrating what happened. That was me telling the story. But you're making it sound like we're saying those things. I don't want... And she says, I don't know what to tell you. She's just a nice little bit of metafiction here in the idea that I guess Squirrel Girl is aware of what the comic panels are showing, which has her saying these things, even though that's not really what the person is saying. So it's an interesting thing. And then meanwhile, Crack-a-Coom, Doom and Nancy Whitehead show up in the middle of Doreen's meeting. So Doreen runs out and comes back in a cool 60s version of the Squirrel Girl outfit. Makes the point that she had first fought Dr. Doom when she was 14. They get into this fight, and they were asking why it is that no one remembers Squirrel Girl. And Dr. Doom basically says, amateurs, this is your first trip through time. And she says, nah, I've been to the future before. It was really future-y. Says, listen well. Any decent time machine contains with it a chronoton protection field that removes matter from causality change, defending all who use the machine from alterations to their timeline. A time traveler reckless enough to travel without one is in constant danger of erasing his own history. Doom is no fool. I sustain such a field at all times as a safety measure. Well, then, how come these people got erased from history when they went back in time? And how come I still remember Squirrel Girl when nobody else does? And Squirrel Girl says, ooh, power of friendship. Says, that is not Doom's concern. Definitely power of friendship. I can, of course, remove the chronoton fields. All that is required is a test subject. She goes for tippy toe, and Nancy Whitehead says, no, here, use my phone. And he says, that will suffice. She says, observe, this is your phone as you remember it as it was in the original time loan. And she says, and this is your phone from the world created after the events of today play out. And says, Doom Phone 5000. And she goes, wow, great upgrade. But then they do a Wikipedia to see what it says. And it basically says, timeline of the 20th century. The 20th century can be divided into two distinct parts, before and after July 28th, 1962. Before that date, things were boring and awful. But that date marked the arrival of Dr. Doom, the supreme dictator of this and all other worlds, after which things were wonderful forever. And taps on Dr. Doom. It says, Victor Von Doom, Ph.D., and they make a bunch of jokes earlier that he doesn't actually have his Ph.D., is a beloved, benevolent dictator, scientist, inventor, sorcerer, supreme genius, and artist who appeared under mysterious circumstances on planet Doom, formerly Earth, on July 28, 1962. He quickly took over the world, issuing many decrees for reasons known only to his supreme greatness, including specifying that Reed Richards and his closest three associates be kept out of space, alternate dimensions, and cinemas, that otherwise unremarkable student Peter Parker under no circumstances be allowed near spiders, that all gamma-ray testing be immediately suspended, among others. His rule is notable for having been absolutely perfect in every way. This causes a fight. Doom says, I've already taken over the world. My phone proves it, yada, yada. And they get into a fight. There's a conveniently placed billboard that says "Relax in style" in our new rooftop pool, precisely 800 feet above the city, located at the northeast corner of Madison and East 54th Street. Wow, that's only 4 blocks away. And so Squirrel Girl picks up all of the people from the future, runs over to the broken wall, and throws them in a perfect parabolic arc into the pool 4 blocks away. Yay! Meanwhile, in the future, another person, whom we don't know who it is, says, metal bed, metal room. That's what I went to sleep in. That's new. She says, oh, frig. And it's like Doom World, all dark and doomy and evil. Says, who is this future guy? What is his future deal? Are Squirrel Girl, Tippy, and Nancy definitely pooched forever? And is everyone else on the planet who are also important too, I guess, also pooched forever? Answers next month. Yay, Squirrel Girl. Fun book as always with Squirrel Girl. Never bad to read the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Love her always. Okay. And I think that brings us to our 2 books together. What do you want to do, Thor or Squadron?
Let's do Thor first.
Thor, my pick of the week. Oh, yeah. Well, hey, young Loki, girl Thor, everything awesome in this book.
Should have seen that coming.
Yeah, well, hey, I love my kid Loki. And I love the scene with him and Laufey. And, him basically saying, I once loved you so much, I traveled back in time to meet you. And he says, yes, just so you could kill me. He said, and if you'd done that just to seize my crown as king of the Frost Giants, I might have had some respect for you. But you did it just out of, foolish anger. And makes a whole thing about how trickery is not the way of Frost Giants, yada, yada, yada. And says, all you need to do is walk the Bloodsickle Canyon, and then I will guarantee your membership in the little Cabal-y thing. And, of course, walks, and there's like 5 giant evil Frost Giants waiting for him. He says, oh, Father, who's the tricky one now? Meanwhile, back on the Rainbow Bridge, Cole and a bunch of other folks have hammers, too. Now, I have a hammer, too, ha, ha, ha. And they're going to fight Thor, but Thor basically says they're giving out hammers to everybody now, aren't they? But we see that her and Mjolnir are just in perfect sync, and Mjolnir beats the heck out of everyone, and then sorry, got a little message. Okay, and then basically Heimdall says halt and sends Thor away so she can actually deal with more important things than dealing with these schmucks. And then they're like, oh, Heimdall, you must go to the dungeon now. And Heimdall says, I figure it's best to get one now before all the good ones are taken. Meanwhile, she goes to the realm of the Light Elves, who we've got the Roxxon tanks and big old mammoth things marching over all the dead fairies. And, of course, Roxxon, because branding, The Dark Elves are fighting, and then Thor shows up, lifts a tank in classic Golden Age style. Meanwhile, Malekith is talking to the 3 weird witches, and the Enchantress shows up, asking when she's going to get to have a little fun with this whole thing. Cut back to Laufey, and he says, it is not possible. Oh, I can scarcely believe it myself. This is it, right? Please tell me this is it. This is Loki talking. This is the moment when we finally hug it out. He says, Father, is something wrong? You act almost as if you weren't expecting to see me. So I chose those 5 myself. They were blizzards made flesh. Any one of them could have slain an entire army of godlings. You mean to tell me you felled them all? Says, not exactly. And one says, I tore off my ears, but I can still hear his voice. Why can't I make it stop? I never laid a hand on them, Father. I just spoke with them for a bit, was all. And then, for some reason, they decided to hurt themselves and each other. Apparently, they didn't like what I had to say. Says, that is not how we murder. That is not the way of the Frost Giants. Says, no, it isn't. But then I'm no Frost Giant, am I? I may have been born in Jotunheim, but I was raised in Asgard, and yet I am neither Jotun nor God, not truly. So what does that make me? For many years I pondered that question before finally realizing the answer. I am Loki. And a Loki isn't a slave to the whims of his ancestors. A Loki writes his own story, and since you've been dead for so very long, Father, I'll forgive you for not knowing. But my story has been rather expletive-tastically good for quite a long damn while now. I'm not the same frightened child you used to swat aside like a fly. I am the Loki who just slaughtered your greatest warriors with nothing but words. So tell me, Father, are you going to continue wasting both our time with your little trivial tests, or would you like to see what a Loki can do to a Thor? And so they send him out. And this was another great device that they used in this that I really loved, which was Thor, Jane Foster talking about her past and her father, the relationship with him. And the great line is there, my dad always said, if a man can't even smile without making you uneasy, then it's a good bet that man is rotten to the core. Oh, Dad, you have no idea how right you are. And of course, Loki says, when Thor says, what are you doing here? He says, I just want to talk. And of course, from our last scene, we see where talking gets Loki. But, really awesome. I'm not convinced that Loki is going to be the bad guy in this. I really think Loki, much like Damien Hellstrom, as we've recently seen, is sort of a man in his own right and his own thing, and not particularly waiting to do, not really caring what you think is right or wrong. He's going to do what needs to be done. And I'm really excited to see where Loki goes next. Although I got to say, them drawing him with the little facial pubes, as it were, is not the best look for him. That's
what confused me. I was like, is he supposed to be Kid Loki, or is he supposed to be
No, what he is like early 20s hipster Loki.
Yeah.
That's essentially where he is. That's where he was at the last time, and so he's like got a little scraggly hipster beard because he's he shaves occasionally, but he's not bound by the man, He's hipster Loki. That's who he is. Now on to Squadron Supreme! Or are they the Squadron Sinister? I think that's the $24 million question. What do you think of this one, Phil?
Well, the day I got it, I mean, I wrote to you, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I didn't say crap.
They are not messing around. This is a pretty good book. I mean, really, and what I think is most interesting about it is how it kind of captures the modern zeitgeist and this debate we have with the basic question of freedom and security, and down to the line of, if we feel there are people who are evil, what do we do to deal with that? And of course, the obvious point in this is that, the evilness of name. So, okay, just to give a little plot in this, basically, our 5 members of the Squadron Supreme, which are Kyle Richmond, Nighthawk of Earth 31916. And I love that they're using the numbers, which means they don't really tell us exactly that much about what these universes were, per se. So as I say, we don't know if that is really Nighthawk of a Squadron Supreme or is that a Nighthawk of a Squadron Sinister. We really don't know.
Yeah. The pictures in the back, I think, kind of give you they give you a little that's the Nighthawk from the Supreme Power, which was kind of like an Ultimates version. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I know that, and I know what they're trying to do, but I guess my point is that we don't really know that. I probably somebody who maybe could dig through and say, yeah, that is the designation of that world, and so maybe it is, but Either way, it was very cool. I liked the way they're doing it. So we have Nighthawk from Supreme Power. We have Dr. Spectrum from an episode of The Avengers where the Avengers blew up their world. Although, again, it's very interesting in the way they describe it, because actually in this, Dr. Spectrum says that they blew up her world, blew up her universe. But the actual idea that it was always supposed to be was that you blow up one world, but both universes get to live. And so it's an interesting way that this has sort of been altered in their view of what happened, which makes you wonder if the rest of that universe maybe still exists somewhere, or if that's going to be something that we're going to see later. We've got our Hyperion, who was from the Avengers group, which was a world done in by another incursion. We've got Jeff Walters, who was apparently a member of a group in the New Universe. I don't know enough about the New Universe to know exactly who that was, but
Rob Southgate, tell us.
yes, tell us about the New Universe, Rob. We've got Zarda, Princess Power, and this seems like it's from the classic Squadron Supreme group, probably the one that predates Watchmen. And then we get to them about to commit genocide. And even though they make the point that, well, we let everyone escape from Atlantis before we destroyed it, it's still kind of a cultural genocide when you think about it. And, it's a really horrific thing they do to the Atlanteans. And it is this collective punishment for a people based on the actions of their leader, something that, that we as members of the Geneva Convention are supposed to frown upon, but that even as we speak right now, people are saying, "Yep, bomb them all. Let's see if we can make the sand glow." Just to be honest with it, that's what people, that's the world we see, and then we see when people start discussing this because they give us our classic Marvel trope of cutting away to people talking on the street, man on the street interviews, and people say, "I'm afraid of them," and other people saying, "Hey, it's great." And one of the great things I liked is they had the construction worker. He says, "Look, I lost a great uncle when Namor launched that tidal wave at Manhattan in 1940. Then I lost my brother. New York City copy died when Namor and his army invaded a few years back. We all remember Atlantis attacks. Never forget." And I liked Thundra's line in here when she's with this little dwarfy guy. Makes me wonder if that's one of the ElfQuest elves. Well, ElfQuest is technically Marvel. And so arguably they're part of that cross-cosmic promotion there. So that could... I'm surprised we haven't seen ElfQuest in the Secret Wars yet. But, he says...
Did you skip over the big moment of the issue?
Oh, what? Oh... You mean the one they spoiled 2 weeks before it came out?
Oh, I didn't see it. No, but so spoilers if you didn't see it like I did. Hyperion decapitates Namor.
Oh yes. That and then Dr. Spectrum kicks his head back over to his body. Just kind of makes that point that when you think about things like people versus. You win because Superman is letting you win. Or, it's like, you really don't know how outclassed you are here. Barring Argonite weapons. And honestly, it's a pretty messed up image there. Namor's body and his head just sort of looking out there. And Thundra, saying, they will help us, yes? Help Lord Archon. Archon, of course, is, I believe, one of the rulers of Weird World, or was the old ruler of Weird World back in the old Weird World comics. Although where he is now, I don't know. And she says, "I used to think so, Tyndall. How maybe they would. Now I'm not so sure." And basically they make their announcement. We are the Squadron Supreme. And Hammond and old Steve Rogers and the Uncanny Avengers, basically Hammond is the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's an interesting thing because this is actually one of those things we made this point about, how the Uncanny Avengers are not part of S.H.I.E.L.D. Although Captain America also isn't part of S.H.I.E.L.D. and both are having money issues because of it, even though Captain America Steve Rogers still has a relationship with S.H.I.E.L.D. So... apparently, the Uncanny Avengers are to be sent against our good friends in the Squadron Supreme, and it'll be interesting to see how it works. Notably, Steve Rogers has Dr. Voodoo. They don't have a magic user on their team, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean they. But I guess if you're going up against a Superman pastiche, you need a magic user because that's one of the things that at least Smallville Superman was definitely susceptible to.
Well, yeah, most versions of Superman are vulnerable to magic.
Yeah, no, it makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. Thumbs up though, all around, very good book.
Oh yeah, thumbs up.
Yeah, not a week. I got to tell you. And I finally get what's as close to a short week as I get next week. Only 4 books coming out. And I'll say this: the previews make Deadpool look like it might be worth it. So I think holding out on Deadpool will prove worthwhile next week. But I'm not picking up Ant-Man. He got dropped last month, and he ain't coming back this month. Sorry, Scott. Yeah.
All right. Well, is that it then?
I think, that's all of our books. That was our, 8 books? Yeah, 8 books.
Yeah.
8 books, yeah. 2 for you and 6 for me. So, 4 for you, 2 for you, 2 for you, 4 for me, and then 2 together. So 8. 8 books, yes. 8 books.
All right. Well, before we go, I just wanted to give a shout out to a new Twitter account I saw. It's Scarlet Witch News, but Witch without an I. It's at Scarlet Witch, like I said, without an I News. We were talking a little bit, but give them a shout out because you're gonna need info on Scarlet Witch if this book is as good as it seems it's gonna be.
Looks exciting, my friend. Looks very exciting.
All right. Well, if you want to communicate with us, share your thoughts and feelings about the books with us. Are we right? Are we dead wrong? You can always email us, marvelroundup@gmail.com. On Facebook, we're All New Marvel Roundup. And on Twitter, we're at Marvel_Roundup. And, of course, you can talk anything Marvel or DC with me, NightwingPDP@gmail.com. And on Twitter, I'm at NightwingPDP. Charlie?
And, of course, you can always write to me at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. And if you want to tweet along with me on the Twitters, if we're live tweeting Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Cardi, or as we did last week, live tweeting Supergirl, you can do that at Charlie Esser. CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for equality.
All right. Well, that's it. Come back next week. We'll review the books that come out 2 days before Christmas. So get yourself an early Christmas present of some comics and come back and hear our reviews. And remember, I know it's a busy time of year, everyone, but keep calm. Don't be like Namor and lose your head. Good night.
Good night.